There we go. All right. Thanks for being here, everybody. Housing provider support. Beth and Karl running the show. Karl's got some big news for us.
No.
Oh yeah. I didn't say it was good news.
Do you know something I don't know
about the housing court?
Yeah.
Other than it passed the Senate and Assembly, not really.
We'll
haven't signed it yet, as far as I understand it.
That's correct. We'll get in it in a little bit,
which is good. All right. So with that, Dave Knapp and Jamie from PPG Glidden at the Home Depot are going to just do a quick intro. Dave's going to say goodbye, and Jamie's going to say hello.
Hey, everybody. You may or may not know I live in Syracuse. I've been commuting Syracuse to Rochester for the past 6 or 7 years. The gentleman that lived in Syracuse for PPG just retired, so I'm taking over Syracuse. So I have a 10-minute commute to a store instead of an hour-and-a-half commute to a store. Jamie's been with us about a month now, Jamie?
Yes. Yep. Going month and a half. Yep.
Jamie's background, he can talk his background a little bit. He's worked for Sherwin-Williams. He's worked for Hadlock Paint. He's a local guy to Rochester. He knows what a garbage plate is, and he knows paint very well. So any questions, you could reach out to Jamie. Susan has him on the website, I believe. All his contact info, or you reach out to me and I'll forward the message to Jamie. I wish I could migrate you guys to Syracuse. I attended a meeting of that real estate association, and you guys are an A+, and they're a little bit down the line. But you guys are a fantastic group, and it's been a pleasure, and I'll still be around. So thank you for everything. And Jamie, if you want to just say a few words.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Francis. As Dave stated, I'm lived in Rochester pretty much my whole life. Grew up in Irondequoit and right in the Somerville, White City area. And I now live almost about 2 miles across the river in Greece. So my longest commute to any store is the Victor store, 25 miles or 25 minutes away from me. So I am local. Garbage plates, you don't really have the true experience of a garbage plate, obviously, until you go downtown to the Nick Tahoes at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the true test right there, and the best way, I guess, to enjoy them. But as far as my background, in 1992, I had to sit down and figure this one out. But in 1992, I was going to school for interior design and happened to go into a Sherwin-Williams to get some samples and a variety of things they were hiring. And I started with them in 1992, stayed with them until the late 90s, worked at Chase Pickin for a few years. So I got that home center experience, moved on to Hadlock Paint here in Rochester. I managed one of their stores, the Pittsford store, for 7 years. I did outside sales for them. I did a lot of color matching for them and stayed with them until 2013. At that point, I decided to give myself one heck of a challenge and went into something completely different. The nice thing with me and PPG is when I worked at Hadlocks, they had brought in PPG as one of their paint lines, and I was very impressed by their product. So when I saw this opportunity, it's exactly why I jumped on it. I have a problem selling anything that I wouldn't personally use or stand behind. So that's where I am now. I'm grateful to be with a great company and have someone with Dave's experience showing me the ropes. And I'm looking forward to being part of this group. As Dave said, I've got a ton of paint knowledge. So be it whatever, questions you guys might have, certainly feel free to reach out to me one way or another. If my contact information isn't in the site there, then certainly I'll make sure it gets there. But I will try to do my best to answer your questions, and any way I can be a help, please let me know and reach out to me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome, Jamie.
Thanks, Karl.
Yeah. Hi, Colleen. And you're on the mute.
Hi there.
Hi. We'll get Beth and Pat back in a minute, Angie, right? But while you do that, let me reach out to Jason. If you unmute yourself, I just want to go back blast of the past there with if you remember who I was about 3-4 years ago.
Of course.
Yes. How have you been? You've been MIA.
Yeah, I've been working away, going crazy here. So
Still in
driving around the city.
Rochester?
Yep, still driving, doing property management, real estate sales, working with them.
I haven't seen your name in a while. Did you move companies or?
Yeah, I left Keller Williams and started my own brokerage.
We're going to come back to you in a minute. And if you do the honors of introducing new people and have them speak for a second.
Absolutely.
We have a couple
Let's
new ones.
see. Who else might be new in here that has not joined before? We got James.
Yeah, Jason and Seth look kind of new.
Jason Johansson. Are you there, sir? Can you speak? I see your camera's on. Do a quick intro.
Oh, yep, I'm Jason Johansson, real estate broker, property management. Worked with investors for a while, and we also have a bunch of our own investment properties we work on. So just enjoying the nice day and listening on Zoom here.
Awesome. Well, welcome. And who else is new?
Hi,
Seth.
Seth.
Seth hasn't been in here before, I don't think.
Jump in, man.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name's Seth. I work with Colleen. So we like to do a bunch of city properties, and here we are.
Awesome.
You're a real estate agent or assistant or?
Yep, I'm a realtor.
In her office.
Yeah, on my team.
There you go.
And I told them the best place to learn about investment property was by attending these meetings.
Yeah, really.
And he's already gone to the Housing Council rental operations class too.
How many in your team now, Colleen?
I have 6 on my team now.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You beat out.
It's been a busy year.
You beat out.
As of today, we have sold as many houses today as of 2021 as we did all of last year.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's why I have a team. I couldn't clone myself.
No.
Yeah, avoid burnout, right? Get yourself surrounded by people.
Mm-hmm.
All good?
I believe so. It looks like everybody else is a regular or has been here before.
A question for Jason. How did you learn about FFREIA and is this group new to you?
I was basically met her a while ago, and it's been interesting touching base every now and then, kind of seeing what's going on, and especially during the COVID, all the crazy fun stuff happening. So.
Good, cool. A quick shout out to Colleen, if you got a minute. I know you're doing a contract. Can you just give us a little overview of the market versus a month ago? Are we still slammed and crazy and anything different?
There's no inventory and there's a lot of buyers. I've sold a number of portfolio packages because there's people out there with money who want to buy and they want to buy fast. So we've sold 3 or 4 portfolio packages so far this year, which is about 30 properties altogether for those. And we just can't keep enough listings in hand for the buyers that are out there. I have investors coming in this weekend. I have only 3 houses that I can show them on Sunday. I had an investor in from California yesterday. I showed him 3 houses. There's no inventory and there's a lot of buyers. So it's still the same way it was 4, 5, 6 months ago. It may have slowed down a little bit, but not much.
So Colleen, the profile of the buyer, is he mostly out of town or mostly local or even up?
So, my single properties I've been selling to locals mainly, not out of towners. The portfolios, one was to somebody who's in town. The other 2 were somebody out of town. So it's a mix. It's always a mix, but there are local investors out there. And they're chomping at the bit just as much as everybody else. And they're, trying to pound the pavement and try and find somebody who's selling a house before it goes on the market. And I get calls every day saying, hey, let me know if you find this. I would love to let everyone know, but there's 45 people in line before you who asked me to let them know. And it's just impossible to cover everybody. So it's been a bit of a struggle. I don't like not being able to deliver to the people that are looking.
I do that with my owners, Colleen. I advise all of them, if you had any inclination to sell or desire to, now is the time to do it. I had about 5 clients jump on that boat. So and they're glad that they did. These prices they're getting is just, I can't
Insane.
explain it. I can't explain it.
It's insane. Every time the listings come up, sorry, my cat's about to knock over the computer. Every time the listings come up, we see the ridiculous numbers, like in the 14621 area zip code where, they're selling $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 for a single on a really not so hot street, and they're getting those prices. So there's just no, especially for people under like 150,000, there is nothing available. And if I have a buyer that can afford 150, I'm trying not to show him anything over 120 because he's going to be putting an escalation in for 30,000 over and probably still not getting the house.
We actually just started, we've never done it before, where we kind of market to our owners because we have like 160 owners and we get off market deals, stuff like that. Even owners who want to sell but don't want to use a realtor or whatever. And we recently just started doing, literally go on Bigger Pockets, do the analysis, attach the pictures. Here's the price. Here's what it needs. I'm talking 3 minutes. People are like, I want it done.
Yeah.
And then everyone after, I'm like, okay, I have a list. And I've asked all my owners if you'd like, I don't know if people are bothered by that. If you want me to take you off the list, I will. Everybody has said, keep me on it. I want more. And they're like, we look all the time on the MLS and it's not even worth it. So ours are going super fast that way too. I just can't believe 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. It's gone.
Last 2 questions for Colleen. The seller profile, are you finding that these are longer term landlords that are burnt out, are fed up with the moratoriums, the ETPA Act? I want out. Is that the attitude here, or what's?
Yeah, I think the key component is management. Sorry, the cat always thinks I'm talking to her and jumps on me when I'm on Zoom. Anyhow, the key component is management. So I had a seller that I sold a house to in 2008, and he was very successful with his operations until his manager retired and he switched to a different manager about 6 years ago, and has not had good luck since. And he's like, I can't. So when I get calls, it's usually being managed by somebody who's not doing a good job. And actually one of my investors that was from California that I just showed around yesterday just signed on with Pat because their investor or their property management was not somebody that was being communicative and thorough. So it's definitely, property management is a really big part of it. They've just been through the ringer from the property managers and now the eviction moratorium, and they just throw their hands up in the air.
A little plug to Gallagher. They have an awesome operation over there. Visit them, and they got their people in place. They got the processes in place. It's awesome. So
There's only a handful of managers that I recommend. You know, it's been doing this a long time and I get asked all the time. There's only a very small handful, and Gallagher and you are at the top of the list. So
we thank you. We thank you.
we appreciate your work and
I'm
thorough.
slowing down a little bit. In fact, I'm moving a lot of people over to Gallagher. So you go call them.
Yeah.
They got the,
Well, that's
they got
okay.
And
They
we're
got
being
the
much
computer
more
program.
picky. And we're being much more picky on who we take now.
yes.
Right.
We used to take a lot of problem properties, and now it's kind of like, if we can clean it up quick, fine. But
Yeah.
if it's a long drawn out process, sometimes it's not worth our time. And I hate to say that, but
It's true. It's true though. And those people that are buying those junky properties are buying because they don't want to spend the money, and they just want to, you know, reap the reward without spending the money. So when you tell them that the property needs $6,000, $7,000 worth of work, and they just bought it for $25,000, they're baffled. But I guarantee that the realtor who sold it to them, or, you know, if they were doing their job, told them you should buy a house with more money and, you know, get a better quality tenant, a better quality house. But they just try and skirt around the whole system and do things the wrong way, learn the hard way. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Colleen. Ready to move on? Let's start with the simple one. Andy brought it up, the Rochester Housing Court special part. We went through it last month. I'll just do a little brief refresher this month. It's going to be signed into law. Right now it's stuck. It's being delivered to the governor. Both House and Assembly did pass it, and we anticipate that will be law. What does this mean? So once it passes, the Office of Court Administration needs to develop the court, the process, the structure, personnel. It's going to take a little bit. Don't know when that's going to come down the line. But let's look at why they did this. And you know, if you keep up your properties and, you know, you do the right thing, take care of code things, this really won't affect you a whole lot. But let me read you the resolution, why they did this, their mission statement. The purpose of this measure is to improve the quality of housing in the city of Rochester by enabling stricter, more effective enforcement of housing standards. The court's jurisdiction will be considered broadened, and the housing court would be empowered to recommend or employ any remedy, program, procedure, or sanction authorized by federal, state, or local law for the enforcement of housing standards, regardless of the relief originally sought by the party. That's interesting. If you're going to go take a tenant to court, petition for non-payment of rent, and they start bringing up code violations, the table is going to turn on you. Now you're the defendant. This court will have the ability to impose civil and criminal sanctions. The broad power is very broad. We hope to get the right judge in there, because it is a single judge that stays in this part. So update next month on that. Any questions on that? Which, Andy, by the way, I think Jamie was integral. She was a lead person in developing or communicating this legislation to Albany. Are you aware of that?
I don't have any of the details because she's been so slammed busy from being shorthanded that we haven't actually talked shop about what's going on that side in quite a while.
Cool. Now let's roll this over to the current court system. Let me Beth, take it for a second. I got to get this call.
All right, so current court system. I'm just going to tell everybody what we're doing. Obviously, the moratorium is until the end of August. My personal feeling is it will be extended till next spring. That's just what I think. My reasoning behind that is I don't think that they're going to open the floodgates for evictions when kids are going back to school. And then they'll probably extend it to the end of the year, and then they're not gonna kick everybody out in January when it's cold. So that's just my feelings on that. I saw that, I think it's California just extended to the end of the year simply for the reason that they want the cities, counties to have the time to disperse the funds that are available. So I think that's kind of the next excuse. So as far as the courts go, I have directed my staff to 100%. We're pre-COVID. If you are late, we are filing. The reason is that we have given all of our tenants ample time to utilize 211. We've started with Providence Housing filing stuff. But they've had so much time, and some of them just need a kick in the butt. So when they get that eviction notice on their door, it is prompting that phone to ring. It is prompting them to do what they need to do. So I know Karl kind of has a little bit different philosophy with that, but that's what we're doing. So people are getting court dates. They show up in court. They're basically told, okay, go talk to that table, which is 211 or DSS, or they have a couple of things down there. And so they're forced to get the process going. Whether they're truly COVID affected or not is up for grabs. I have only had a handful of people denied for not being COVID affected. But it's really forcing people to do that. Also, what it's forcing people to do is leave. Some people get the eviction notice and they're like, screw this, I'm done, and they just move. I've had a couple people not show up in court, and unfortunately they get 3 tries altogether to show up. So if someone doesn't show up, they get another date scheduled. After the second time, they get a third one. So I had 2 people actually not show up for their third court appearance. So we got warrants and lockouts. Pat actually stepped away to take a phone call, but we had a lockout last Friday. And we showed up with Polizzi. Polizzi's like, yep, I can lock out. We opened the door and she moved all her big furniture. She had little stuff left. So we considered it moved out, locked, changed the locks, put our Jeannie in our name, no problem. Polizzi did say if she were to come back and do a show cause order with the court, we would have to let her back in. So it's kind of a catch-22. We haven't heard from her. We have the property back. It is what it is. And that person, we started the whole process for 211 with her. She just would not give the agency the information. So for whatever reason, she just said, forget it. So that's kind of our experience of what we're doing with courts right now.
Beth, I'm just surprised they allowed the lockout because technically the verbiage under the Safe Harbor Act removes any eviction until the emergency is over in the state.
But remember, it's not a lockout due to non-payment. She was not showing up to court.
No, the actual eviction itself, the actual removal of the person is prohibited under the Safe Harbor Act. So it's kind of interesting they allowed that.
I think it's because she didn't show up to court, but then also Polizzi said if she was there, she could call the court, get a show cause order, and he could not lock her out. So gotcha. I don't know if it's a loophole or if it's just we got lucky. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
And then the other lockout we have, it's for like, I think her lockout date was yesterday, but she moved over the weekend. So if we didn't file, I don't think any of that would have happened.
Yeah. The moral of the story is get those 14-day pay or quit notices, get them moving through the system. My thing is, of course, with the 14-day pay or quit, you got to serve the declaration with it. And that's their angle. My side is, well, here's my declaration. We'll see it September 1. We'll see how it unfolds. On July 1st, I'm going to be going out to, because I want the July rent in my papers. I'm going to be doing my visits to all of the ones that most of my background people are in the 211 pipeline. In fact, checks are flowing. I mean, we got a good 15 tenants with checks and 15 in the pipeline, but there's like 5 that are just like, what are you doing? Those are the ones I'm serving the 14-day pay or quit. We'll see what happens with that. Let's talk about the declaration, because legal aid are getting cases thrown out because of 2 reasons. That declaration is improper. Not just the declaration. Along with the declaration, you have to provide a means of return information to you, so the tenant can return that declaration to you via fax, email, address to mail. I give them all 3. That's got to be in the declaration information to get it back to you. That's not there. Legal aid will jump on it, get it thrown out, at least attempt to get it thrown out. It might be minor to the judge's eye, but the bigger one is the list of free legal services for the tenant. That's a separate page. That's going to be attached to the declaration page. So make sure those two things are included with the declaration underneath your 14-day pay or quit. Now, Beth, you hire all your stuff out, right? The process serving.
Yeah, we don't, even the lawyer does the 14-day.
Right, because now we have an extra affidavit. They want an affidavit for the 14-day pay or quit, as to how to serve that, just like a normal petition. And then they want an affidavit for the fact that you served the declaration, the same way as an affidavit for a petition. So you got two affidavits going on. Or it could be actually one affidavit showing that you served both. That's okay. They take that. One affidavit, I served the 14-day pay or quit. I served the declaration of hardship. So you could do it that way. So be careful with that if you're doing it yourself. I think everybody here is.
Karl, funny story.
Yeah,
Amazing.
please.
So Pat was at one of our multifamilies, and up walks the process server. And, so Pat, he's talking to him, oh, that's kind of crappy, blah, blah, blah. How do you do it all the time? He goes, watch. Knocks on the door and goes, delivery, kind of like Amazon would or something. You've been served. I was like, how smart is that? Because if they just see a man with a packet of papers, they're not going to open the door.
Been saying that word for 30 years, delivery.
I just thought that was super smart.
Yep. Jason, have you gone through any court stuff recently, petition on through with your things?
We were holding out for a while to try to do the assistance process, and then we got everybody started with applications except for two holdouts, that the ones with the largest balances, totally non-responsive. So we sent them to the attorney to start the process, and they have court dates coming up here, but we're not expecting much out of them. But the actual assistance applications, we had a couple come through, and then other ones we just haven't heard back yet. I guess they're totally swamped.
Yeah.
Anybody else have experience with the petition eviction process within the last few months? Share us your experience if you've done any. Pat, Tony, anybody? No, you're all sitting back, not doing it. No petitions, huh? Okay.
Karl, you said you're starting yours soon, right?
Yeah, July 1. On July 1, because I want to include the July in all the documentation. The July rent.
One thing I will mention is we've had a handful of people who went through 211, went through the process, and they put them in programs to pay their rent moving forward, which I had not seen in the past. So whether it be Trillium Health is one that is doing it. I'm not really sure how they get into it, PCHO. So they're kind of like almost vetting people for how can we prevent this going forward. But I mean, they must have to fall into some kind of guidelines, but that's actually helped some of our tenants for the future. And it's not just that future 3 months, it's forever. So that's something we came across.
Yep, I ran into Trillium also, Beth.
I don't really know what that is. I know it's like Section 8, tenant pays 30%, but I don't even know how they get started on that.
Me neither. So let's talk about where we stand today in terms of our moratorium. So let me talk about the word moratorium. People hear eviction moratorium, they think that you cannot start the eviction process. You cannot evict. You can't do that, but you can do that. It's wide open. 14-day pay or quit, the petition, the court hearing, affidavits, whatever happens, defaults, issuance of a warrant, which again, I'm surprised. But the eviction comes into play with the actual removal of the property. Can't do lockouts. The moratorium is on that part, the end part of the eviction. Just want to make that clear on the word moratorium. People get confused. We got three running side by side. We got a federal and two states. Let's talk about the first one that we think might be getting extended. It does expire July 1. That's the state one, emergency rental relief program. This is the one with the affidavit that they have to submit to move that chain down the road to July 1. Now, Beth and I and a few others really think that that's going to be extended again. Except that who is it that said that? The NACC. Beth, did you get the legislative update from Under One Roof today?
Yeah,
got
they
that?
just extended, what, is it CDC through the end of July? But I mean,
Wait.
New York trumps that anyway, but
I'll get to the CDC in a second, at end of August, September 1, but they extended that a month ago. So the state one, which is the one that's attached to our current eviction process, is, you know, the affidavit, the 14-day pay or quit in the declaration. That statute expires July 1. Again, we believe this is going to be extended to line itself up with the CDC one, which expires September 1. Actually the day before. So we'll see what happens. That's the state one. The federal one, CDC, was moved to September 1. That also comes with a declaration. There are differences between the two. But again, they have to plead they've been affected by COVID, and there's some certain guidelines, and that's explained in the declaration there. So we'll see what happens with that. So there's two moratoriums floating right there. Then we got the one that's on the back burner, which is not being talked about because we got the other two front ones. That's the Safe Harbor Act. That one's the most egregious one. If it's implemented or processed the way it's written, which is you could go through the eviction process and get a money judgment, no declarations or anything, but you can't evict. When does that expire? 6 months after the emergency Cuomo releases all executive orders and the emergency is over in New York State. We're into 2022. So let's see if, you know, legal aid or whoever brings that back out again once the other two expire. So we'll see what happens. Beth, any comments?
not really. I think you
Anybody,
covered it on there.
anybody getting a lot of the declarations being delivered to you? You guys, Jason, you getting declarations? That's because you haven't served the 14-day pay or quit yet. Let me talk to you about this declaration thing. They're slick. So in New York City, and you may have gotten this one, Beth. I'm sure you have. There's a tenant union in New York City that's advertised everywhere in the media, social media. I forgot the name, the big tenant unit down there. Well, they have a platform on their website whereby they enter their information. The tenant enters their information, but they do all the work. Tenant doesn't sign that declaration. It's all printed. They do all the work. They fill it out. They mail it to the owner. They mail it to the court. They give it certified to the owner. They do all that work for free for the tenant. All they got to do is be online for 5 minutes. Have you gotten any of those yet, Beth?
All of ours are going to the lawyer. So I'm not even aware what we get. I know people are sending them in for sure. And especially through legal aid, they're sending them in, but they're going right to our lawyer.
Gotcha. And you probably haven't got one because when the tenant puts their information in, they put in the management company, the person they deal with for rent. That's the person they want, not necessarily the owner of record, but the person, you know, who's your manager, who collects the rent. Well, Carl Weeks does. That's why I get the certified mail. So it's slick. Is it worth challenging that in court? Well, they didn't sign it because you have to sign under penalty of perjury. But it requires a signature. It's not a signature. They actually type it in. So anything else? Any questions, comments? Give it a break.
I was just gonna say the governor's state of emergency supposedly ends today. This is the last day, so you can start your clock.
Yes. You for real?
It is. I posted it up. There's a link. He talked about, it made the news. I heard about it on Monday. I just went to the state website and it's confirmed. So today is the last day of the state of emergency. So put it on your calendars.
We'll see what happens with that. Yes, ends. Thank you, Andy. 624. Pat, you there? So you and Pelizzi talked a little bit about warrants and this and that. I mean, did you gain any new information from him? Because he's on the front line of this eviction thing. So anything new?
Carl wants to know how he was able to do a lockout.
We have two of them. One we did, the tenant left prior to us getting there, but he slapped the eviction sticker on there and it's all good to go. The reason is that the tenant was never showed up in court 3 times. So that they postponed the court, tenant was supposed to be there 3 times. So the tenant was locked out only because never shown up in court.
So Pat, the judge, the court allowed 3 stays or 3 adjournments. Is that right?
Right.
Wow.
And it was good because this was the tenant that used their toilet for 3 weeks before they called us that it was clogged. And 2 bathrooms in the house, but they didn't want to go downstairs to use the other bathroom. So they used the same toilet for 3 weeks, even though it didn't work. So my plumber's like, this is the worst. I said, I can't believe you even did it. I would have took off the toilet, threw it away. But even then, obviously, you have some exposure.
Oh,
What happened?
I lost him. It happened to me earlier too.
What happened?
Oh, you there?
I don't see you. Hang on.
Who?
You guys are
Oh.
still there. You're just tabbing through stuff. Apparently, you're good.
Okay.
But that was and then Pelizzi told me that I said, what happens if they bring up the show just cause? And he says, I believe if I'm here to do a lockout and they say, hey, I'm going to show just cause, I'm going down to the court. Pelizzi said that he has to he can't do the lockout. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Like, it gets to the point where it's a lockout. He's given the court order from the judge, lockout. But Pelizzi was a little bit unsure of it, but he says, yeah, I think I have to stop doing it if they tell me those. If they tell me.
That's a very rare situation, because at that stage of the eviction, most, if not all, except that one, are engaged with legal aid and free legal services, and they're telling them exactly what to do. As a matter of fact, I had 2 at the very end. The lockout, the marshal was there, he said, and she handed him the declaration. That ends it right there. So if she hands it at the warrant or at the lockout, that ends it till when that expires. So.
Well, Beth and I are doing a purchase in Ohio, and we're about 6 weeks out from this purchase. And the driving factor is because of the landlord laws. They do not mess around. And in return, the tenants are very accountable, and the rent collection's high. None of this nonsense. None of it.
Are you planning on growing into that market bigger?
I like Ohio. I like the township we're in. We're 30 minutes from Cleveland. I don't know enough about it yet. I just love the laws. The research is all positive. I think once we close and get our feet wet, we're going to manage it remotely for now. And if we can't, I have no problem turning it over to a company there. And we'll see how it goes. Florida's good, but Ohio's 3 hours away, so it's much easier for me to jump in a car and go check on things. But we'll see what happens.
Okay, cool. Good luck to you.
Mm-hmm.
Andy, do you know if where's my quick question here? Who or why opted out of the state rent relief?
It was a decision by the county and the mayor's office, and apparently, according to the call I was on with Under One Roof and ODTA, both Adam Bello and Lovely Warren were told that if they decided to go this way, they would not be eligible, specifically not be eligible for any of the additional funds coming through ERAP. And that includes the $100,000 bailout for landlords to get their money directly. And they said, we don't care. We need to get this done now. And we're just going to do it with the money, the funds we have. And they did it. And they wanted control over it. So it was Onondaga, Monroe, the city of Rochester, I think Yonkers, and one other all opted out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because they opted out, if they didn't opt out, we as a landlord could have applied for a tenant who just skipped out.
Correct. You
Correct.
could have applied
Right.
for tenants that are not cooperating and for tenants that are no longer on premises.
Now,
And-
do you know anyone who's been successful with the OTDA program yet? I mean, I know it's still new.
Everybody I've talked to at last update was on a wait list, and they have not seen money yet, and they were still waiting for processing and responses. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had something like 50 or 60,000 applications in, but no money's dispersed.
June
So-
17th on that email today, Andy, 90,000 as of June 17th completed. A third item, Beth, in what we missed out on, non-cooperating tenants, money for skipped out tenants, ineligible tenants. So the ones that were denied, there was money in there to still tap into.
And there's also no way they're going to get through those 90,000 applications by the end of New York's moratorium. So
No, there isn't any way they're going to do that. And from what I've heard, there's still roadblocks with tenants not being approved. So there is a link to fill out the survey, I believe, in that same email. If you don't have it, we'll put it up on the FFREIA website tomorrow. But we need to know if you've been denied through any of the programs and why, specifically for the OTDA programs. So if you've got properties outside of Monroe County and you're applying and you're being denied, fill it out, because we need to know what the heck is going on so we can roll it back up. I think we're aiming for 500 responses, and at last note we were at like 50. So not great.
Okay. A couple updates with good cause eviction in New York State did not pass this legislative session. Other municipalities may be entertaining passing individual ordinance. I'm not aware of anything in Rochester at this point. The eviction moratorium, Beth, the answer. So the National Apartment Association reported that June 17th, based upon incidences of infection and vaccination rates, the levels have not been met to extend the moratorium. That was a finding. However, there's still a potential to extend exists. Tenant advocates are pushing for an extension. So, ETPA, June 2019. There's a part of that Rochester is not engaged with yet, and that's the rent control section of the ETPA. And that's because they have to declare a state of emergency, that Rochester has less than 5% of vacancy. And right now they have a mass survey going on and one-on-one interviews. And I think, Pat, you did one with Gabrielle, right? No, gave me your name, but they're actually doing one-on-one interviews and group interviews and a survey to get, all the data in to say, hey, we're below 5%. We're going to declare an emergency. Rochester's already on record saying, yeah, we're going to opt in. But yeah, it's going to be under 5%. Look where we are. Eviction moratorium. I mean, the timing is very clever, and getting what they want. And I think it's wrong that they're doing this now, and I know why they're doing it now, because it's very probable that they'll get what they're looking for. But what does rent control mean? Here, let me tell you. Well, first, there's going to be it affects properties 6 units and higher. That's a good thing. So all of our small guys, 1, 2s, and 3. I'm a small property specialist. 1, 2, 3s, and 4s. But 6 units and up, there's a board that's going to be convened that's going to annually generate data to decide how much rent you could raise and how much rent you could charge on a new rental. That's one item. They keep it, and you have to report to the state agency that handles this. There's a $20 a unit fee to maintain rent control. You have to register. So you have all this information exposed. They want tenant names, addresses, and rents. So it's just layered with government controlling your property rights, and it's BS, frankly. So we'll see how this unfolds. Pat, what's your opinion?
Well, like you said, the city's pretty hot to trot on this. A city official called Beth directly to say, I noticed that you didn't do the survey, and could you please do the survey for us? And then Henry Fitz said that when we questioned him, Henry said city council is pushing this through. So, and if you look at the current new elections with city council, who got on city council, I don't think it's going to help us any. But yeah, they're going at this hardcore, and I think they can construe the findings how they see fit, who's even doing the findings, who's tallying the surveys, right? So it's a matter of time, because 6 units and up is going to get passed. Our rights are certainly going to be infringed upon. And then before you know it, it's going to be singles and up. It, right? Because the city has an issue. They refuse to face and address the issue. And they also refuse to build up their own apartments and let people live for free. Do it. But why come to the private housing that we own and operate and tell us what to do, what we can't do? So if the government wants to have free housing, do it. Do it. So of course that will never happen, right? They'll just keep pointing at us saying we have to do things differently. So I don't like it. And I don't like to leave Rochester, because let me tell you, all my research shows the best returns are here. Even Florida, Ohio, the best returns are here. But for long-term, 20, 30-year long-term stuff, it's just my opinion. If I'm going to buy something big right now, it's not going to be here. And we all have probably some small stuff with great tenants, and let that run. Keep it, let it run. But are you wrong to sell right now when the market's high? No. Should we run? No. We should fight it, but it's just not looking good. So I have all these thoughts that, we do. To me, I think we should band together. We should have a union as well. We should be more organized. And one of the problems is we work a lot. We work hard compared to the other side. So I don't know. But I think ultimately we really should get more formal and be organized. And it just seems like the tenant union is represented all the time. And what about us? We have certain members of us are represented. But again, if we had a nice core and a nice system that gives some pushback, I think that's the right thing to do. So I just think once this 6 unit passes, it's gonna be everything. So
the 6 unit is state controlled. The local municipalities could go above that. There's one place who's doing 20 units on higher. You can go above 6 on a local level, but they have to change it on a state level. We'll see. Who knows? This is a moving target. We'll see what goes on. Not too many landlords on this call.
Karl, wasn't this rent control just in Albany? Andy, did they vote on that?
That was good cause eviction.
Yep.
They haven't done the rent control yet. And actually I was on a call with the team who's doing the rent control in Rochester last Monday. Jacob and Kayla and I from Under One Roof got on and discussed it. And apparently they've been working on this since the fall of 2019. They delayed it because of COVID and are finishing it up now. According to what they told us on the call, you've pretty much got until next spring before you'll see anything change. So you've got another 6 months to go, but they don't expect a final decision, quote unquote, to be before like November, December time. So you might actually get Malik in position before this all rolls and things happen and they start forming the boards and all that other stuff. So it could be okay. We'll see.
I believe that we're going to be in a better place with Malik as mayor. My opinion.
If he
Why
has
does-
any,
okay.
go ahead. No.
Why
If he
do-
has any shit to say, I mean, city council is not exactly going to see eye to eye.
True. It's true. But I mean, it's a city program that has to be set up through the executive branch, doesn't it? So
And what, Carl, I guess preliminary, why do you like him so much? I don't know anything about him, so I just know a lot of the housing providers do support him, and that's really cool. But has he
Yeah.
come out and said anything about?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I
He
mean,
has, yeah.
directly with I don't, maybe Andy knows, but directly with home ownership and housing providers and that stuff. I haven't. He may have said stuff. I haven't heard that part, but I've heard other interviews. I mean, his energy, his optimism, his outlook, his passion, all those things kind of grabbed me. A little different than our current mayor.
we had him on one of Jamie's real estate roundtables, and he is a banker. He does portfolio loans for property managers and property investors. He is a property manager himself. He gets it. He knows the deal.
Very nice.
That's good direction right there. We're heading in a good spot. Let's get some other people in here. If you have a particular issue or problem or a comment that you want help with, resources, we'll take a minute and just be quiet and let people jump in. Don't be bashful. Jason, you can lead the way. You're still in Rochester doing stuff, or did you move out of Rochester, Jason?
Yeah, still in Rochester. Mainly city properties, but then we branched out to the suburbs.
Gotcha. Tony, Milt, Leslie, Michael. Oh, by the way, Andy, the notes say that the Albany good cause eviction is expected to pass in the city of Albany.
I'm not surprised. That's been taking up a lot of Deb's attention and time trying to stop it, but it will eventually, I think, come to Rochester at some point because of this. They couldn't get it at state level, so it looks like it's going to be a city by city push. So expect it in Syracuse, expect it in Rochester. It may not be all of Monroe County. It might be just the city proper, but who knows? I guess we'll see when it comes.
Beth, do you have any topic you'd like to touch upon?
Well, I know you wanted me to talk about screenings if time permitted, so that's up to you.
Well, let me go over my last thing, and then you close the meeting out. Just this is a refresher. Back in early 90s, we were hit with a document that we had to give to our tenants. They have to sign off on an affidavit. That was the lead brochure with every lease, every sale. Well, in the last 2 years, there were two more added on. One is the fair housing notice and affidavit. Again, with each lease, they have to be given the fair housing notice, and there's an affidavit that they got it. Also, there's a fair housing notice that's posted at your showings in your broker offices. So that's the second one that jumped on. again, more work. And then recently a third one, notice disclosing tenants' rights to reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities. It's like 3 or 4 pages of that. That needs to go with the lease too. And actually, this one here allows you 30 days after you sign a lease. You have a 30-day window to get this to them. Beth, I don't know if there's a affidavit with that one. Do you know?
Disability.
No, you don't have to sign that one.
There's no affidavit to that one. How would anybody know they got it?
Well, I know that we as property managers had to prove that we sent it to all of our current tenants. I mean, we just did ours by email. Proof enough. I know some people were doing it by certified, but with the number of properties we have, we could not do that.
Yep. And both the housing and the reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities, there's a section in there how to file a complaint, of course, the phone numbers and websites and so on. So now we got 3 in tandem working with their leases. If you're not aware of these things, I suggest you Google them up and get knowledgeable about them.
Also, your website, for those of you that have websites, has to be ADA compliant.
There's actually people out there looking for that. And I think they fine you a lot. Go ahead, Andy. You were going to chime in.
I was just going to say one of the only 2 states in the country that's reading the ADA to include websites is New York. And New York is responsible for 80% of the lawsuits, and almost all of them are on housing providers if your website is not ADA compliant.
Beth, how are you aware that there's snoopers out there, or the document police?
I mean, some of the marketing people I talk to, they've told me about it quite a few times. Our website is through our computer program, and we had to I guess we picked a template that's outdated, so we had to redo the website with a new template that's ADA compliant. And I mean, if you're small time, I would think you don't have to worry about it. But I mean, if you're out there, absolutely. I mean, there's fines involved. It's not like you can say, oops, sorry, I'll fix it. So I think you got to be up on that. And the other thing I heard is that if you don't know what you're looking for, you're not going to know that you're not ADA compliant. But if you know what you're looking for, it's like a little tab in the bottom of the screen that activates it. So I know it's a big thing right now. And then I'm also on some New York landlord group on Facebook, and there's a new, people are testing. I'm trying to think what the right word is, but they're getting callers who are testing them saying, oh, is that a good neighborhood? What kind of people live there? And they 100% know that they're just being tested to see if they're breaking any of those laws. So
yep, I got 4 in the past couple months. That is true. Spotters.
Why it's important to be on your toes and to have a good lawyer.
And to make sure people who are answering your phone know the law, not someone out of high school you're paying minimum wage to. They have to know.
It's one of the reasons way back I developed a strategy of just driving all the traffic to the house. The over the phone thing never happened. We're never caught there. Like for example, the calls that came into me, strong accent. Is the house still available? When can I see it? Then he called back 3 or 4 more times trying to catch me up. It's still available? Yes. Be there Saturday at 1:00. You'll meet the manager there. Ask him any questions. So I kind of stay off the phone as much as I can and get them to the property, and then they get our information sheet and they take it from there. We're lawsuit proof in this stuff. They can't get me. I'll guarantee you that.
Well, the city's still going full board ahead about the property manager licensing program.
I was going to ask you about that.
You know, there's still meetings going on every few months, and they're still pushing ahead. And it looks like they'll get this going probably early part of next year, where someone has to be designated as a contact. You have to be within 45 minutes of the city. You have to renew your license. Then there's going to be a good boy list and a bad boy list. You can get revoked. So those little details we're working out, because obviously it's pretty general at this point. So
And Pat, that just might fizzle out because of Mr. Malik. That might change drastically. Who knows? That might head into a much better direction. My opinion.
I'm just curious how they would police that anyway.
I think it's all going together with, you're going to have good cause eviction, housing court, rent control, and the licensing. And all four of them are going to be tied together into one big oversight through the city. And you're not going to be able to do anything with your own property, period. It's a perfect storm. There's no way it's not going to be that way. All of it's going to be under one big government overpaid bureaucry.
And we see how the city runs everything, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, they've done an awesome job getting all the four-wheelers and fireworks and dirt bikes and all the guns and illegal crime. I mean, yeah, Rochester's the best place ever.
Anybody else with a topic? I'm glad to hear that the Under One Roof is going to resume, or I'm sorry, the roundtable is going to resume mid-July. That's good. Andy, I hope Jamie's doing okay. Is she doing all right?
She's buried because she lost Taylor. Taylor went to work for a different firm. So she's doing all of her court dates and all of her paperwork right now. So they're trying to hire somebody into the office to be her associate again. But she's pretty much, their real estate department got so big and then they lost people. So she's crushed. And then she's actually on vacation today and she won't be back until the 12th. So she's like out of state with her kids and her husband doing the vacation thing. They come back the 12th. The next meeting's the 15th, I believe.
22nd. All right. So Beth, every once in a while, we like to refresh everybody with great tenant screening techniques and processes. And let's see what works for Gallagher. What you do, what you use, and what works for you.
we're gonna have to charge you.
So, I mean, we used to have someone on staff pretty much full time, and we would have open houses. We don't do that anymore. It weeds out all the people that that aren't quality anyways. So the way that we do it is if you look on our website, we post pictures of what's available. We do a virtual tour. Most of the time it's just my maintenance guys walking through the house saying, oh, here's the bathroom. It's nothing fancy. So we direct every caller, every person to our website, and they must apply online. They can drop it off at the office too, I should say that. But we require certain documents. If they don't turn it in, we text them once saying, hey, we need your ID to complete your application. If they don't send it, we don't want them anyway. Sounds kind of mean, but it is what it is. We don't chase people for paperwork. Somebody who you chase for paperwork, you're gonna have to chase for rent. That's my philosophy.
Yep, that's true.
So we weed out people, like I said to the girl who does the applications. Last week, I said, are we not getting a lot of applications? And she said, no, people are being lazy. They're sending their applications. They're not paying the fee. They're not putting in their stuff. So we make sure that all of the stuff is collected before I even look at it. She puts together a packet for me she'll run their credit, get the credit score, pay stubs, our G&E bill, or something that proves they live where they say they live. We require 2 landlord references. So from there, I look at the packet, which this is where I think I do a little bit different. A lot of landlords will call the prospective tenant and talk to them first. I don't, because everybody can sound nice on the phone. It's kind of like an interview. They'll put on their best face, and I don't really care about that. I want to talk to the landlords first of all. So, I mean, I have their credit score in front of me. I can see their credit report, who they owe money to or whatnot. But I go right to the landlords, and I don't really believe what they put down as their landlord. I always check it with the city website, sometimes the county website. I'll Google names to see who actually owns it. A lot of times the property management company will be out of date, but I still call, XYZ property manager, and they'll be like, when I stopped managing it, they owed $3,500, so they just tell me stuff. And it's really just asking open-ended questions. I do not send forms that say, did this person pay on time? Was this person clean? Yes, no, because that's not, you can really say anything. So a lot of my background really goes to the landlords. We require a 3-to-1 ratio for rent. Credit scores we look at, but we deal with, 90% low income. So a lot of them don't have credit. And we're flexible on that. Trying to see what else. And then once they are approved, then we will show them the house. So I'm not paying somebody full-time, part-time, anything until they are 100% approved, and I know I'm accepting this person. And that's kind of the last step. If Pat shows it to somebody and they smell like weed, they smell like they're drunk, they bring 18 kids with them, it's kind of the last screening process. And at that point in time, if they like it, then we'll move forward.
Do you have a rental agent in your office, or you do it all yourself?
I do it all myself.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's a great weeding out process.
And that's the thing. If you make them jump through the hoops, they weed themselves out. So like, I know somebody that you're familiar with too. He called me and asked me, and he's like, I'm just getting so many responses. I am overloaded. I'm getting 100 for this one place. And he's like, I call them. I'm like, why are you calling them? You need to start weeding people out before you talk to 100 people. It all meshes together after a while. So that's kind of what I have found. We require their Section 8 budget sheet. Some people fight us on that. Sorry, that's my policy.
The best thing that we love is when they give attitude during that whole application process. It's like, thank you so much. You just saved us a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's just great, just little stuff sets people off. And if they're set off on something very minor, again, that's not who you want to have a relationship with to rent.
Why asking so many questions?
Yeah.
Beth, quite often the tenant doesn't have the owner's phone number, right? So how do you handle that?
Google. Honestly, if you go to the city website, go to the property information and the contact tab, that's the person who still owns the property or manages the property. If it doesn't match what they put down, first, I call what's on the city website. Second, I'll call that person who they put down and be like, oh, I'm sorry, the handwriting's a little scribbly. Do you manage this property? Do you own it? Oh, what LLC do you own it in? Like, I just play a little head games, and they can't answer the question. And more times than often, they hang up on me, and I know it's not who they said it was. But the more I do it, the more you just get a gut feeling. And I've called people before, and they're landlords, and they're like, we end up managing their properties just from a simple conversation of, I can't believe you're actually asking these questions. And I have some other people who call us, and their only question is, would you rent to them again? That does not tell me anything. So, the more you do it, the more you learn.
And I'm usually the one showing the places because, like we tell our owners and all your personal properties, the tenant's the most important part of this game. So especially now what's going on. So I don't mind showing it. And if I notice something wrong or something out of the ordinary, we'll bring it up and get rid of them if we have to. But this is the part that, if you're not good at, you better farm it out to somebody else who's good at it. Same thing in the other parts of the game. I'm not good with the paperwork. I'm not, so I hire that out or delegate it to other people, because, staying compliant and staying law proof free, like Carly said, you'll never have a lawsuit with your website and your policies and procedures. Again, if you're not good with that, get some help. But our leases, I think, are really good, and we're always improving them when we have to. Yeah, we've been served papers with attorneys and coming after us for lead paint and mold and so forth. But again, those usually don't go anywhere as long as you operate in a certain way. But as far as the tenants, I mean, we've changed our processes a bunch of times with the application process and how to screen. We used to go to every applicant's house and walk through their house. And now there's some different views on doing that, what you can do, what you can't do. And so, I mean, you really have to weigh it out and go on your gut and have your policies set and follow those policies.
There's some good things that came out of COVID. It just changed your approach, your style, made you more efficient. Probably wouldn't have thought of that without COVID, right?
Absolutely. I mean, even like I said, we had somebody pretty much full time, maybe 30, 35 hours a week, just showing properties. I mean, think about how much money you're putting out there weekly just to show properties. To 90% of them, I would deny. And I still tell Pat all the time, I'm denying 9.5 out of 10 people right now. So,
well, especially now. I mean, we're being faced with a new part of the equation, and that's you got many more people behind in rent because of COVID, and they're looking to move. So they're coming in with a rent issue. I mean, so what do you do with those, right? I mean, under the old days, you're not paying, you're out. But I look at every case, and my mission is to find out, was it a one-time financial setback or is it a pattern? Are they moving forward now to qualify financially? Everybody has their setbacks. Well, COVID set back a lot of tenants, huge amount of tenants, and so they're coming into the marketplace with that issue, and so it's changing the way we approach the decision-making process. I get more into a conversation with them, asking a lot of leading questions and so on, trying to pull out the truth and that kind of thing. So that changed quite a bit, to the point, Beth and everybody, that pre-COVID, 160 units, I was probably showing anywhere between 3 and 7 units all the time. Last 3 months, didn't have to show any. Big change. And what I'm finding is the units that do come up, it's word of mouth. It's existing tenants. I got a brother, sister, mother, whoever needs a place. And so we didn't have to go into the public marketplace. It's all within our tenant community. I'm finding that out to be kind of big right now. How about you, Beth?
Oh, absolutely. And then to piggyback on what you said right before that, that is why I believe that pulling a credit report is one of the best things you can do. And if Albany takes that away, I'm going to cry, because I don't know what I'm going to do, because you can tell if it's a one-time financial setback or if it's a pattern. I don't go based off the credit score, more what's on the report.
Right.
And you can, once you learn how to read them, they're a little tricky to read depending on which ones you get. You can tell a lot off a credit report. And even to the point where they say that they give me 2 addresses, and compared to the credit report, it's their last address and then their 9th address. They left out 7 in the middle, so you just lied.
Tenants will go to great lengths to hide the truth. I've always said that from day one, and that's their mission, to hide the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to pull out and uncover the truth. because they won't tell you. That's why they don't tell you about those 7 addresses or that incorrect phone number they give you. I had a thought here. What was it? Yeah, he'll come back to me. Greg, you finally put your picture up there. Now turn your face off. You know, one of the things, you got your picture up now. Now unmute yourself and say something. No, okay. Just so, if you don't know, Greg and I go back about 40 years, right? Right, bud? 40 freaking years. Before computers and cell phones.
You know, I guess we've had a few of some common calls of landlording stuff. Wet wipes and feminine products for some reason are becoming popular again for backups. Basements flooding and people leaving their prized possessions on the bare floor. Not cutting the grass when it's in the lease. So I guess a little tip is maybe go over with your new applicants and your new tenants about the dangers of the basements. And, you know, just because it says safe to flush doesn't mean our Rochester Plumbing can handle it. You know, grease as well. I mean, these things that have been around forever, I think don't forget about those things. All right. Always educate your new tenants coming in and let them know the dangers of this and how they can be responsible for the cause of the backup, because of course they deny it, right? So same with like roaches on a single family home, they don't want to pay, but like, why should we pay? So,
Pat, while you're in the basement, show them where the main shutoff valve is too.
Yeah. Even, you know, the shutoffs for the toilet. And the thing is, you know, when you do move-ins with a lot of the tenants, they don't want to spend an hour with you looking at the breakers and the shutoffs and the water shutoffs. And, you know, you could spend an hour with them, which is all good stuff and necessary, I believe. But it's hard to get their attention with kids and so forth. And they got a truck coming. And so it's kind of hard. But it seems like, you know, we're still getting some sewer backups that, you know, don't need to be. Stuff in the floor. Oh, I lost my stuff. Well, you know, we told you at the lease signing, don't put stuff on the bare floor. You know, it's just the same stuff. You know, we always recommend renters insurance for them, which provides great protection at a good, fair price. So don't forget that stuff. You know, it's still important. I had, you know, and rent increases. We've been doing rent increases with everybody. With this rent control looming and so forth, we're trying to raise everybody up now to set that standard. And of course, we get a few phone calls. I haven't been raised in 7 years. We're like, yeah, that was our fault. You know, they're mad at us. Another one called the net office on us. So, you know, you can't.
But, you know,
It is what it is.
you know, they call a little bit irate. Like, I can't believe you want to raise me $50. Here's my 30-day notice. 2 days later, they call back and retract that notice because they go out there and look at what the prices are for a 3-bedroom single versus what they're paying. And they're like, no, I think I'll stay put. So I think that some people are just kind of, they think we're in, you know, 2005 prices still. They don't know market rent.
And it's the same thing, you know, we have people that are awesome for 3 years. And something can set them off, and guess what? They're your tenant from hell. They turn on you. It's just I don't know if it's a Rochester thing or not, but that's why you got to stay consistent. And as soon as you give in a little bit, which I've done many times, it just comes back to, well, Pat said this, Pat said that. You know, it's just, they have all day to argue the minute little stuff that just gets overwhelming at times. So I stay out of a lot of that now. I just refer them to my staff. You know, but it's about them losing their landlord's phone numbers. It's funny because I got people from 10, 15 years ago that still have my phone number. And, you know, Beth calls, oh, I don't know my landlord's phone number. Why don't you know your landlord's phone number? They all know your phone number. You know, they all do. So usually those that don't, they're on their way out. They're not getting accepted. So, but what else?
And I'll even tell somebody I can't process your application until I have a valid phone number, and put the ball back in their court.
And they'll get it.
I've done that before on several occasions, you know. those ones that are on the borderline. No, I really need to talk to your landlord. I actually go a step further. If they moved out recently, 1 to 2 months, I go to where they lived. Oh, the information I get. We got the maintenance guy there. We got the landlord there. We got a phone number on the front house for rent. We got the neighbor telling us about all the bad things about that tenant. I go to, and if it's empty, there's you can look inside, open windows. Sometimes the doors are open. Oh, so much stuff. Yeah, it's worth the trip.
I could go down a rabbit hole with some of these people, but I'm like, oh, I'm denying them. I don't know why I keep looking into it, but sometimes it's just entertaining. But I gotta stay on track.
Entertaining. Well, being around him, yeah, you got to be entertaining. Well, we're winding down here, guys. We got a small group. We could check out a little early if you don't mind. Unless anybody has anything else.
Greg wants to know, where do we advertise our rental these days?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Where
Go ahead. Go ahead, Beth.
We do Zillow, Craigslist, and our website, really. That's about it. I know if you push it on Zillow, it kind of bumps it out to a couple other places. Some of our student housing we might do on like RIT or U of R website. But there's some stipulations with that. It's pretty typical, but anywhere that we post, it directs them to our website. What do you do, Karl?
Karl does not have a website, so I do things a little bit differently. Like I said, lately, we don't have to go through those marketing streams because word of mouth, ready-made tenants. But primarily, I did Craigslist and Zillow primarily. I'm gonna get this out. Oh, that was a great question. I had a thing for this. I'm gonna try to find it.
Facebook used to be a good place for us. I don't do it anymore there because it just seems to be a lot of back and forth where people want to talk on Messenger, and I don't have time for that. But we would get a lot of interest there. It's not difficult to advertise on U of R website, but you have to have a valid C of O, which typically isn't an issue, but they do check that. We used to do Section 8 website. We've done that before. We used to do the Housing Council, but I kind of shied away from that for a while.
Ditto.
For long term here is.
Oh, MLS? Okay. I've never advertised on the MLS. For rentals, I should say.
Oh, man.
And you know, if you're at your properties and they're vacant, I'm sure it happens to everybody because it happens to me all the time. People stop you every 20 minutes.
Oh yeah.
You know, so they see you there and you're definitely a target.
I've advertised rentals on the MLS in the past, several years ago, and you really don't get a lot of, a lot of hits on that. It's not where people look. In Rochester, it's not where people look. In other cities, it definitely is a tool, but in Rochester, there's so many other things that they look for. So.
Yeah, or the realtor that advertises wants like a $1,500 fee.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we charge $5, so okay. So.
Anybody try apartments.com? They're kind of huge.
Aren't they just like for complexes, the apartments.com people, or is it for everybody?
No,
Oh.
everybody. Yeah. Zillow's big, but you pay for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zillow you pay for now.
Yeah, we used to call some of our good clientele to give them a referral fee if they know any friends or family. So if you have the time, call up some of your good ones to see if they can recommend and help you fill your places and give them $100 or something. That might work.
Anybody hear a website called Avail, AVAIL?
They advertise that on Bigger Pockets, don't they?
Yeah. They everything, housing provider, landlord, stuff like this. So Greg, mark that down. AVAIL. Google it up. Apparently, they have services. A lot of information there. And so one thing I found, Avail, those syndicate it to the top 12 rental listing sites for you free of charge. Your listings will appear on Avail, Realtor.com, Doorsteps,
Hey.
Hot
Nothing.
Pants,
On the Zoom call. What's going on?
Zumper,
No, it's okay. I'm trying to get.
Apartments.com, Zillow, Trulia, PadMapper, Rentable, Apartment List, Walk Score, partner listing sites, 12 sites. They'll through them. You don't have to go to those sites. They'll do it all together for you, free of charge. Again, I don't have to go that far because advertising is a minor thing now because you don't really need to. For me, anyways.
We're definitely in the driver's seat. So there's a lot at this point. So you can really be picky and choosy to get the best person, and let your place sit for a little while if need be. Don't settle. So all the people we've been placing over last year and a half, been doing very well. So
I have owners who get a little antsy every once in a while, like, oh, it's been 2 weeks, you haven't found anybody. And I'm like, you don't want the people. I'm like, I can fill it today, but you won't like them in 6 weeks. And they understand that. But sometimes I have to be a little bit blunt with them as you don't want the first car that you test drive and not test drive anybody else. You gotta do your due diligence. And that's our job, frankly.
It's our main job. Let's wrap this up, guys. We all good? Andy, you want to
I
close
think
this?
so.
Yeah, close this out, Andy, will you?
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for coming. We have coming up because of the holiday week, the next meeting on the 1st will take place in the morning. It is the alternate real estate investing strategies meeting hosted by Joe Labavera and Scott Spear. The housing provider support meeting for July 8th in the morning is canceled, and there will be no official educational general meeting on the evening of the 8th. Instead, everybody will be meeting at Johnny's Irish Pub to do some light networking and have some adult beverages and good company. And if you are out of town for July 4th, like I will be, don't worry about it. There will be no recording, so don't go looking for one. But if you are in town and looking for something to do, that is the place to go, starting around 6 p.m. on Thursday, the 8th of July. And that is all I've got.
Having said that, so long. Have a great month.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
everybody. See ya.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.